could a Superman movie or miniseries on HBO Max be a smart call? And I do think it can be. And I don't think that they have to work way too hard to try and reinvent who or what Superman is. Because I had a pretty cool experience this past summer with my own kids, kind of using them as sort of like a test audience for the classic Superman. And I got to tell you, the results are very exciting. Because I've basically been like saving Superman for now. For years. 'Cause I've been showing my kids all kinds of awesome movies over the last few years. But Superman in particular, I've kind of kept close to the vest. I wanted them to be old enough to really fully enjoy and appreciate the character. And I didn't want to risk blowing it on a version of the character that might not resonate, But now my son is 6. My daughter is 9, and we basically had like a summer of Superman as part of our efforts to keep things exciting and wonderful here at home while we're basically living in quarantine. So we've been having these great movie nights, and I've been introducing them to all kinds of great stuff, and one of the things was Superman. So I was very nervous when it was time to show them Superman the movie, which was really, that's how I was going to begin this journey. My plan was to do Superman the movie, into Superman 2, into Superman Returns, and then from there, shift into Man of Steel, maybe BVS, and then do Justice League. And throughout that, also get Superman the animated series going. I really kind of had a whole Superman education in mind for what I was going to do with my kids. But meanwhile, step 1 was making me really nervous. Because listen, these kids have seen everything. These kids have seen the last 12 years of Marvel movies. They've seen Star Wars movies. They even saw the theatrical cut of Justice League. Like, these kids have seen all kinds of modern blockbusters. So in my mind, how is this movie from 1978 with very dated special effects and a much more like classic sort of approach to storytelling, like how are my kids going to take to that? And I was secretly worried they were going to be bored and it was going to crush my soul forever that my kids basically rejected the movie that got me into all this stuff to begin with, But it's pretty amazing, guys. It's pretty amazing, Because I should probably also mention, like when we do a movie night here at Casa Robles, we do it right. We turn off every light in the house. We close all the shades. We turn the Bose sound bar way up high. I make bowls of fresh popcorn with butter I melt myself and salt I apply myself in layers all throughout the bowls. And, we have our drinks and we have our movie candies that I buy from outside. And, we treat movie night like it's a big to-do. It's a big deal. We turn our living room into a movie theater. So, and I had already sort of established that, we had done like the 8 Harry Potter movies and we did 3 Pirates of the Caribbean movies in this way. And now it was time for Superman. And I gave them a little bit of a background. I tried to explain, this film came out at a time where there weren't superhero movies. There weren't comic book movies. And when there was like superhero stuff, it was all kind of like goofy and childish, like Batman and Robin. And I showed them a little bit of the 60s, Batman and Robin series. So I'm like, superheroes didn't used to be taken as seriously. Right now there's a new superhero in theaters every few months. But there was a time when it didn't happen. And this movie you're about to watch is really considered like the first ever superhero movie. And this really kind of set the blueprint for, all the other movies to come. And, I just kind of gave them a little bit about the historic significance of Superman the movie. And then that was it. The lights came down, I pressed play, and we were off to the races. And what was pretty great was they were gripped right from the start. Right from that opening with the little girl reading the comic book from 1938 And then the red curtains slide off to the side and we zoom. I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about it. Because just as we start zooming into outer space and the John Williams theme kicks and you're in dun 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 dun, and you start seeing the zooming like letters and all that stuff, my son went, it's like we're flying. It's like outer space. That's so cool. Like he loved the letters, the zooming, really dated, old-looking letters that I thought they were going to laugh at. He loved the letters. And my daughter was just quiet. She was just there. And we're watching the movie, and they're getting emotionally invested in what happened on Krypton in the beginning. And they're getting emotionally invested on what happened on Smallville when Jonathan Kent dies of the heart attack. I thought my daughter was going to cry. Like, it was heavy. And I'm looking at my kids and they're going on the journey. Okay. And now we get to the point, and I've been thinking about this moment for months, because we get to the moment now where we're going to see Clark turn into Superman to do the helicopter rescue. And we haven't seen him really in the suit. You know, there was the one thing at the end of the Fortress of Solitude sequence where he flies towards the camera, which is amazing. But, you know, we haven't actually seen like the traditional thing where a situation arises and Clark must spring to action. And then we get the shirt rip. You know, my kids had never gone through that. Okay. But this is such a testament, by the way, to how strong the Superman mythology is. That even kids who don't necessarily didn't grow up on it, they understand what's going on. And what I mean by that is this. The helicopter sequence starts. And Lois's helicopter suddenly is now lurching over the side of the building. And mind you, that is shot in a very intense way. It's not like a cutesy, like, oh, damsel in distress, I hope somebody rescues her. Like, Margot Kidder is screaming for her life, guttural, primal screams for her survival, dangling from the helicopter, and the fire department's arriving, and the people are congregating on the sidewalk looking up at the helicopter. You know, it's a very gripping moment. And Clark comes out, and he picks the hat up off the floor, and my daughter turns to me. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional, but she turns to me quietly and says, "This is a job for Superman." When my daughter said that, and this is a kid who did not grow up on this mythology at all, but she didn't say it like tongue in cheek. She got it. And she said, "This is a job for Superman." And then Clark runs across the street and rips the shirt open, which, by the way, I just noticed coincidentally, I'm wearing my "This is a job for Superman" shirt. Maybe it wasn't unconscious. Maybe it was a subconscious decision to do this. But anyway, when he rips the shirt open and Superman saves Lois, like the smile on my daughter's face, like you couldn't, it was amazing. And now, you know, and it's a long movie too. It's 2.5 hours. So there's still like another hour and 45 minutes of movie after that scene happens. So I'm still thinking like, okay, this, you know, we were off to a great start, but is this going to sustain them? And especially because there's no big boss fight at the end. You know, we're not going to see Superman tussle with another alien baddie at the end. Like, you know, and they're used to the big third act, explosive, action-packed sequence. And granted, there is action. But it's a very different kind of thing because it's more Superman saving the world. And it just, my kids' responses did not disappoint at any stage of any of this. Because my daughter looked horrified as the earthquake is happening, where the nuke hits the San Andreas fault and you know, there's all this chaos happening. My daughter looked nervous. My son cuddled up against me. It was like they were totally caught. And then Lois dies. You know, I think that's something that people overlook. People love to talk about the Donner Reeve Superman movies as if they were just this cutesy, kiddie, childish, no stakes. Like, no, that's all a bunch of nonsense. there's a lot of stuff in that film that is rather mature and rather unexpected for the type of movie you think you're going to watch. And my kids watched Lois die. And I saw my daughter's eyes get very shiny as she's like, how can this be happening? I thought Superman and Lois are supposed to be together, and she's dying in the first movie. Like I saw her going through that. And then when Superman leaves, he has that emotional cry and flies to outer space and then starts to reverse time. I didn't say anything because, again, I know it's kind of a hokey thing that people make fun of now. But I'm like, let me just see. I'm going to let them react the way, see if they know what's going on. And my son goes, he's turning back time. I'm like, wow. So he gets it. And he doesn't think it's stupid. And my daughter got it too. And she got excited because like it dawned on her. This is how he's going to save Lois. He's going to, reverse time and get to her in time this time. And then the final thing was when the movie's over and now, Superman flies towards the screen and he smiles at you and he exits. The second the credits start, my son turns to me and goes, are there more of those? Are there more Superman movies? And it was like, yes, son, there's a lot more. So it was a great introduction, really, of Superman to two kids who've seen and are still watching all of this very contemporary entertainment. And they bought it hook, line, and sinker. They now love Superman. But to get back to your question, Mr. Trey Jackson, my experience, and this is totally subjective, and this is totally, my experience with my kids, totally sort of circumstantial, totally just, my own experience. My kids really gravitated towards just the traditional, standard, big blue Boy Scout Superman. And to me, that's important. Because a lot of what's gone on in these last 7 or 8 years has been Warner Brothers trying to figure out, how do we make Superman click? The classic version doesn't work. People don't want that ever-loving good guy all the time. They want him to have some darkness and some complexity and all this, They've tried really hard to sort of modernize Superman when I don't think they had to do that. I don't think they ever had to do that. And if my kids' response to the Reeve Superman and to the 90s Superman animated series are any indication, kids nowadays, this generation will happily embrace a classic Superman. So in terms of getting the audience to invest in him again, you just got to tell a story that keeps him pure, but puts the world, makes the world around him complex and with all kinds of shades of gray and, socio-political concerns and underpining. Like that is the true secret in my mind. You keep him pure, you make the world around him impure, and you could have a Superman that audiences in 2020, or should I say 2021 or 2022 or 2023, will love.